Let's dive into the wide receiver position for week 4. Who are the top pickups? No one should be surprised to see Jauan Jennings, 33% rostered at the top of the list. The single highest scoring wide receiver for 1 week is Jauan Jennings for 2024 so far. 12 targets, 11 catches, 175 yards, and not 1, not 2, 3 touchdowns for Jauan Jennings. 46 PPR points. My goodness, looking absolutely phenomenal. 5 contested catches, 4 explosive plays, doing it after the catch, doing it in the end zone, making leaping grabs over people, just looking like a legitimate wide receiver 1 out there. Well, Brandon Ayuk, alligator-arming the ball, like not looking his explosive self. All that holdout is seemingly catching up here. Now, of course, one or the other, if I had to pick one for the season, of course it's Brandon Ayuk. I get that. The guy's still rounding into form. But while we have Debo likely out at least 1 more week, Kittle expected back, but I think you got at least 1, maybe 2 more weeks where Jauan Jennings right into that, at worst, number 2 role in this offense, potentially the number 1, given the way this looked. I do not think it's a complete fluke. No. Do I expect him to put 46 points up every week? No. But do you put up 46 points without any semblance of talent and ability and chemistry with your quarterback? Also, no. I really, really like what I saw from Jauan Jennings, an absolute beast here. And even when those other guys do come back, yeah, I do think Jauan Jennings take a step backwards. I don't know that you can put this genie back in the bottle, though. We've seen Kyle Shanahan reward the players that step up best for him. I think we at least get a 3rd wide receiver role for Jauan Jennings, even though I do know they do run 2 wide receiver sets at one of the highest clips in the league. I understand that, but it's also a really valuable, one of the rare worthwhile handcuffs at the wide receiver position, given the upside that we just saw. All the thread that you can't play, injuries at wide receiver, that's dead. This guy absolutely could be a starter any week. One of Debo or Ayuk or Kittle miss, he'll be right out there and thriving, clearly. Darnell Mooney, 26% rostered. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Mooney, 4.3, 840, 95th percentile speed. And we're seeing that ability to separate at every layer of the field. It's not just long speed, very quick in and out of his breaks. And he's been getting rewarded for his ability to get open so far. 8 targets, 66 yards in week 3, 34% target share. And then the week before, a 27% target share, 7 targets, 3 catches, 88 yards, and a score. This is now 2 weeks in a row that he's been top 25 wide receiver, 17.9 and 14.6 PPR points. Wide receiver 16, wide receiver 25, and that's with Kirk Cousins still kind of rounding into form, still not really planting and locking that thing deep. We know that's within Kirk Cousins when he's healthy skill set. We know Darnell Mooney can certainly burn with the best of them, kind of looking like that Jordan Addison of this offense. I really like what we're seeing from Darnell Mooney, only 26% rostered. I didn't mention, too, Jauan Jennings. It's one of those things, how much fab do you spend? Well, whereas I'd spend like 40% to go get one of those running backs like Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen, I do think Jauan Jennings is closer to that, like 15 to 20%, given it is mostly just a 1 to 2 week rental. But again, huge upside, just like those other guys, as a stash. So if you think you need 20%, you need that fill in your 0-3, you need an upside flex for this coming up week. Yeah, you can go 20 to 25%. Make sure you get the guy. I think Darnell Mooney's closer to that like 12 to 13% range. But I do think the longer tail upside for Darnell Mooney, probably more usable throughout the rest of the season. Then we drop to about like the 3 to 5% range. But some really worthwhile names to consider here. 11% roster, Jalen Nailor. Currently the only wide receiver to catch a touchdown in every single game this season, the current touchdown leader on the year. And yeah, that's been most of the production, but 9.1, 14.4, 12.4 points against his first 3 games. He's also top 5 in total separation, according to Fantasy Points Data's, I love that new stat, average separation score. And you had Kevin O'Connell come out and say, Speedy Nailor, you guys might be surprised by the separation he's getting, but I'm not. We knew that this guy was great against man. You're seeing him win against every type of coverage. And the broadcaster even mentioned, they want to use this guy in more of a kind of TJ Hawkinson light role. And that's maybe not what we're seeing right now with a 19 yards per reception right now. Not the kind of dink and dunk role of TJ Hawkinson. But even when Addison comes back, I think Jalen Nailor, an offense that was top 5 in 3 wide receiver sets, can continue to thrive with those Sean McVay lineage here. I just love the player. I think this guy is definitely more of a baller than he's given credit for. We're seeing him score. We're seeing Sam Darnold cook. I think Nailor is here to stay. It should be rostered in far more than 11% of leagues. Now, definitely an athletic freak, Michael Wilson, who had some huge games last year while injuries were striking this position. goes 9 targets, 8 catches, 64 yards, leading the team in receptions, second in targets to only Marvin Harrison Jr. We're seeing Kyle Murray kind of use Wilson as that intermediate move the chains guy, and we did have Trey McBride go out with a concussion, likely a 1 to 2 week injury at most, but you never know with those things. It seems like for at minimum a week that Michael Wilson could have some real usability. And who's on the docket? The Washington Commanders, the worst secondary in the NFL. So at minimum, Michael Wilson should be a phenomenal, probably like fringe top 35 wide receiver stream this week, given the matchup, given the absence of Trey McBride, and given that over the middle, like big body, go up and get those tough yards. The guy really thrived in that role this last week, and really just Kyler Murray really shown faith in this guy. Huge situations, 28-yard gain on a third and long, a 30-yard gain later in the just definitely that one was called back by penalty too. He catches that. We're talking about a 100-yard day for Michael Wilson. So ultimately, I think this guy's really, really talented, really athletic beast that's emerging as the number 2 target here for as long as Trey McBride's out. Gets at minimum a phenomenal week for matchup. So I think you got to consider putting 5% or so on him. And if you really need a fill-in, like you consider going up to 10%, because I don't think it's just a 1 week stream. There's more to what you see here. Then we got the Jets receivers. We're getting like a vintage Aaron Rodgers performance on Thursday Night Football, and that certainly makes both Alan Lazard and Mike Williams more palatable to potentially start for you in your lineups. Lazard catching 3 targets, all 3 of them, goes 48 yards and a score, just a touchdown maven right now, tied with Jalen Nailor for the NFL lead in touchdowns, looking really, really solid. The only reason I'm not willing to pay even more for this, because we know there's the rapport, we know there's past chemistry, we know Rodgers loves this guy. Well, Mike Williams is starting to creep that way back into the lineup. 3 catches, 34 yards, 4 targets. Actually sees more targets than Alan Lazard. A 12% target share for Mike Williams. A jump to a right around 50% route share after being only around 20% the week before. This is a top 12 wide receiver, Mike Williams, for multiple seasons in fantasy points per game. The guy's just never been able to string together healthy seasons. But the way Rodgers looked, the ball placement, the escapability, the deep slings, like all that stuff is going to fit so well with what Mike Williams does in those contested situations. That pinpoint accuracy, I think in the red zone especially, it's going to be deadly. So get on him before he really starts to blow up here at 24% rostered. Alan Lazard as well, though, definitely still will maintain some value as a key touchdown scorer in this offense. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.